Peryite has often been considered the weakest of the Daedric princes by both mortals and the other 16 Daedric princes themselves. As the Prince of Pestilence, it is easy to see why this is the case, but there's evidence to suggest that Peryite may just be the strongest Daedric prince and also the being that will bring about the end of the world. Before we get into all the speculation and theorizing, it's important to circle back and look at Peryite's character in detail. Each Daedric prince has a set purpose or task, and Peryite's task is to maintain order. Now, this is interesting seeing as another Daedric prince, Jiggalag, also seeks to maintain or rather introduce order as well, and this can be witnessed by the player in the Shivering Isles DLC for Oblivion. However, order for Peryite and Jiggalag mean different things. You see, Peryite seeks to maintain the natural order, whereas Jiggalag seeks to impose a rigid, unnatural order upon the planes of existence. It is upon Peryite's nature as being the protector and enforcer of the natural order that is most interesting and important to us here, however. Back in 2011, there were a series of fanfiction posts on the Bethesda forums. However, whilst I do say fanfiction, these writings are considered basically canon by most for the sheer accuracy of the writing. The posts take the form of a series of letters sent between two scholars discussing the Daedra. One post in particular mentions that the princes of this world will follow the lead of the princes of the last. They will step up and become kings, with Peryite as their chief. Here it is suggested that at the world's ending, which should be at the hands of Alduin, don't forget, and with the ushering in a new Kalpa, Peryite will become the chief of the Daedra in the next world. This point is crucial to what we're talking about, and we'll be linking this with another idea later on. So let's talk about the storyline of Skyrim, which I'm sure, as you all know, revolves around the return of Alduin, who seeks the domination of all things. However, Alduin returned for the wrong purpose, going against his true nature and task. You see, like a Daedric prince, Alduin has a true purpose, his being to eat the world and destroy it, ushering the next Kalpa, which is, if you don't know, essentially the next world. However, Alduin grew proud and chose to forsake his proper role as the World Eater in favour of conquering Mundus for himself and his fellow dragons. In short, he went against his true nature and usurped the natural order. There's significant evidence to suggest as well that the return of Alduin in Skyrim was actually meant to herald the end of the world, but Alduin simply disregarded his duty and instead tried to dominate pretty much everything. It was prophesied that Alduin would return to eat the world when 5 events occurred, and these are the events as dictated by Alduin's rule. When misrule takes its place at the 8 corners of the world, when the brass tower walks and time is reshaped, when the thrice blessed fail and the red tower trembles, when the dragonborn ruler loses his throne and the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies sundered, kingless, bleeding, the world eater wakes and the wheel turns upon the last dragonborn. The first line mentions misrule in the 8 corners of the world, and this was achieved by the breaking of the Staff of Chaos in the first Elder Scrolls game Arena, when the pieces of the Staff of Chaos were distributed in the 8 corners of Tamriel by the Imperial Battle Mage Rhaegar Tharn, and this was done in order to prevent the Emperor Uriel Septim from returning to the throne, since it was with this staff Rhaegar Tharn managed to banish Uriel to a plane of oblivion. Thus, the first line is fulfilled. The brass tower mentioned in the second line is in reference to Numidium, the brass god, which is present in Daggerfall's storyline. Also, the idea of time being reshaped in the second line could refer to the warp in the west when there was a dragon break, which essentially is a manipulation of time. The disaster at Red Mountain, which is the event the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind centers around, fits in with the third line since it mentions that Thrice Blessed is probably in reference to the Tribunal. The fourth line, in turn, obviously refers to the Oblivion crisis in the 4th Elder Scrolls game Oblivion, when the Septim bloodline ended, thus ending the rule of Dragonborns on the Imperial throne. And lastly, the 5th line is in reference to the Civil War in Skyrim. So, since these 5 prophetic statements can be considered fulfilled, as each one takes place in an Elder Scrolls game, it is clear to see that the return of Alduin in Skyrim is supposed to herald the end of the world. However, because Alduin went against his nature, it did not. It could be said then that the natural order became perverted because of Alduin's action. Now, in link with what we've said before, it is Peryite's duty to maintain this natural order, and it is the natural order for Peryite to become the chief of the next Kalpa, in essence to replace Akatosh. Within the natural order of things, if Alduin had done his job, the Kalpa should already have ended, with the start of the next Kalpa at hand with Peryite as the so-called chief of the deities. Since this has not happened, the very Kalpa itself defies the natural order and the cycle of things, as a Kalpa must always come to an end. And since the natural order is Peryite's responsibility, he will have to do this himself, perhaps by unleashing some sort of deadly disease across the world to destroy it. Perhaps the quest called The Only Cure in Skyrim links in with this idea, since the whole point of the quest is to kill the so-called shepherd who rebelled against Peryite by not waiting for his signal to release a bunch of afflicted Bretons he led to Skyrim upon the world. Kesh mentions that the afflicted, who were carrying a deadly life-threatening plague, were meant to stand ready awaiting Peryite's commands to cover the world with his blessing. Perhaps the plague that they were carrying was the one meant to bring the world to an end, but who knows. In addition, there's also the fact that Peryite has the added incentive of ending the world, since he will become the chief of the deities upon ending this Kalpa, so it is entirely plausible to think that he may just be the one to end it. Also, interestingly, and as a bit of a side note, one of Peryite's main forms is as a dragon, and some speculate this to be in jest of Akatosh, who himself appears as a dragon as well. So perhaps through appearing as a dragon, Peryite openly mocks Akatosh, knowing that in the next Kalpa, he will take his place. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. If you didn't know already, I've got lots of other cool lore videos on my channel that you can feel free to check out. Anyway, thanks again guys, and I'll see you in the next video.